it's been a little more winter here than usual. So we've had more. As a matter of fact, it snowed again last night. Actually, we had thunder snow last night.
Oh man.
So there's no snow on the ground around my house here, but the mountains surrounding and all the fishable waters are pretty much tied up to with ice or slush or whatever. So not a really good fishing time this year around here. Went down to one of the big reservoirs down by Phoenix last weekend, but locating fish in that 9,000 surface acre reservoir when you're just fishing a little 14-foot boat's not easy.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I mean, I know you're in Arizona, right? It,
yeah.
you don't think of Arizona as a big snow area, but I mean, Flagstaff, I guess. Yeah, I've driven through there where it was really snowy, but the rest of it, you think of just desert, hot.
Yeah, and I'm only 55 miles south of Flagstaff. They had
Hmm.
10 inches of snow last night.
Wow,
So,
that's a lot.
I had some snow flurries after the thunderstorm, but nothing stuck on the ground. But the mountains around my place are all snow capped today. It's like living in Colorado or something for one
Yeah.
day.
Well,
And
I get notifications on my phone from Durango where I used to live, and yeah, they got a lot. They got dumped on too. It's really thick there. So seems like something came
yeah,
through.
yeah, I have a good friend that used to live up there. He lives in Sholo, Arizona now, but he used to live up there. And I visited when there was a lot of snow in Durango. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so it's been probably last year and this year probably been the slowest fishing winters since I moved up to this northern, 90 miles north of Phoenix. So,
Man, it's ne
uh,
it's never fun when it's slow fishing. I mean, it's still fun fishing, but day
yeah,
after day after day of, slow, you kind of start to really crave to be able to have a good day.
yeah, you sure do. You sure do. So yeah, yeah, no, it's been so. Anyway, I'm doing all right. It's been a rough year. I had two really close friends pass away,
Sorry about that.
and and I'm dealing with my brother with I think I've mentioned his dementia before, so
Hmm.
he's been sort of a challenge. So working around those things, done a little bit of fishing, but not a lot of catching, and so I don't know. And my local stream has been running so high. West Clear Creek runs right within walking distance of the house, but not much biting. I don't know. There is one thing I was going to mention to you too is I do not understand, but I watch guys that live in Texas like you do catch bass in the wintertime.
Hmm.
I'll tell you, once it gets cold around here, and I mean below about 48 degrees in the water temperature, you cannot get a smallmouth or a largemouth to bite. It's
Sure.
like
So
it's
I know
crazy.
here they've got a species called the Guadalupe bass, and those
Right.
tend to be they actually around here call them the Texas trout because the way that they'll sit in the I guess the fast the riffles
Mm-hmm.
in the faster moving water in the riffles there they'll just sit there and they eat stuff kind of like trout do just coming down. They'll just sit and wait for something and nab it, and they seem to be okay with the cold weather. I don't do great in the I do better in the summer for sure
Well, I
fishing
think
for
everybody,
bass,
yeah, everybody does it.
but you can catch them.
Yeah, I'll tell you, they just shut down around here. We haven't caught a bass since the first week of December. That was when it started to get a little chilly around here.
Sure.
And we've had this has been a record year in snow, despite all the global warming and things like that. This is the third largest snow year they've had. It's not even over yet, quite. In Arizona, is since they started keeping track in 1895.
Yeah.
So that's been a snowy year. And
Yeah. I mean, it's funny how that is. It's I don't think I'm no scientist, so I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I know anything, but it does seem like it's more of like change, I mean, it seems like there's some areas that are getting hotter and some that are getting cooler, and I think that's just kind of natural in the world. You get spots that move, of cool and hot, and it's just normal. Maybe they're getting more extreme. I don't know. I'm not old enough to know what it was when, 50 years ago or 100 years ago, but it doesn't. I mean, yeah. So I'm no scientist. I have no clue. I am not a but it doesn't seem like it's
I,
that drastic.
I remember 50 years ago. And I don't know, it didn't seem, I mean, actually, I think that it was more wintry back then too.
Sure.
Used to be more snow and stuff, and we went through some quote unquote drought years, but I don't know. The media overplays all that stuff. I really think
Oh
they
yeah.
do.
They
You know,
overplay
because
everything.
oh yeah, they sure do.
Apparently we've got aliens that are being shot down by
Yeah, 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 I know. People always ask me, say, "Well, you believe in aliens?" I said, "Yeah, probably, but I don't think they visited here." And they go, "Why not?" I said, "Because the universe is a little bigger than what you people think." I
Sure.
mean, I mean, they shot off. What I was about 26 years old when they shot the Voyagers into space, and they're still getting signals from them, and they're now beyond the solar system, past Neptune, past Pluto. But that was 45 years ago.
Yeah,
and and it's like they just now made it past the last planet in the last
for
few
sure.
years. You know, it's like, yeah, okay. Them aliens are just shooting around all the time. I'm
Yeah,
sure
right.
I'm sure they're eating dinner with us and stuff. So
Yeah.
I tend to be more realistic than that.
Oh, I feel you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, honestly, I don't know anything about that. I couldn't say one way or another. I have a faith. I believe in God personally, and that's
Mhm.
all I care about. So if we have aliens set foot, then it must be in His plan, in my opinion. I don't really care. It's all. I'm going to be protected. I know. So that's
Yeah,
all that matters.
absolutely. I mean, God out there, I'm sure he has, maybe he has other tribes,
Maybe.
who,
Who
you
knows?
know, but it really doesn't concern us all that much. People like to make a big deal
Exactly.
about it. We sure do.
Absolutely. Yeah. I just worry about myself and what I do and make sure that I'm taking care of others and doing what I can to be, living the right way. And so that's all that I care about,
Mhm.
but,
Yeah.
anyway, so fishing's been slow. I honestly, for me too. So I have been so busy that I haven't been able to fish. I mean, I fished probably twice this year only, I think maybe once only this year. It's been super
Mhm.
slow. Yeah. Once this year. And that was in Tennessee. It wasn't even here, so I haven't even been able to get out
But
here.
yeah, that's right. And you didn't do all that well. You were looking for smallmouth there, weren't you?
Yeah, but like you said, it shuts down. They were saying that you could, and I was like, I mean, outside it's like 26 degrees. The water's,
Right.
there's ice on top of the water. I don't know. Are you sure? And they're like, yeah, that's what you go for, not trout. And I'm like, okay. So I tried it, but no, I mean nothing. And like you say, they shut down at a certain temperature, and I don't think they have the Guadalupe bass there, which is like I said, it's a different breed that can handle the cold a little better. So
All those smallmouth, I don't know. I mean, people back up, I grew up in Michigan, and
mm,
people would catch them there in like colder water. It just seems out here and such, they just, I don't know, the
yeah,
farther south you get, the less they're interested in biting if it gets very chilly in the water.
they're
I don't know.
softer.
Yeah.
It's like
I
me
mean,
moving from Colorado. I moved here to Texas where it's humid and warm and yeah, we get some couple colder days in the winter, but it's rare. And now it's like it's 40 degrees outside. I'm like, I need a jacket. But in Colorado, man, I would be in shorts in 40 degrees. So
I know. Yeah,
you
those
just
all
kind of deal
relative.
with it. That's what
We just had they just had the Super Bowl out here, and not that I went. I just made a point of avoiding the Phoenix and any place more than about 20 miles south of where I live, because first of all, I don't get excited about that stuff. I mean,
me neither.
uh, it's all a big show that they put on for people that
Mhm.
are living in a city, and you know, too much gambling and too much hype as far as I was concerned. But
Absolutely.
um, and they also had that Phoenix Open golf tournament too. I saw people coming from all over the country, and they're wearing shorts and stuff. They were lucky; they hit 70 degrees a couple of days while people were here before this big cold front hit. Um, but yeah, people come from back east, and I remember first moving out to Arizona. Heck, it was December when we got here, and I was swimming in the pool. And people were saying, "You're crazy."
Yeah. Yeah, you get
Now,
used to it. Your body, I mean, you get those people, what, polar bears that like to
Yeah,
go
jumping
swimming in
deep.
the ice or whatever. Nice.
Yeah.
Your body
Yeah,
gets used to it. Our bodies are pretty amazing what we can handle. So,
yeah, we're very adaptive overall.
yeah.
We truly are. But yeah, so I don't know, the fishing, like I said, I had a couple of fish stories, so to getting old now, probably the biggest one the last time we got to a place called Ashurst Lake, which is only about 20 miles south of Flagstaff. And it's an interesting lake because our game and fish wants to make it a pure trout lake, and they get upset because it has pike in it. They're always trying to gill that pike out of there and this and say, oh, if you catch them, kill them, blah, 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 which I resent. I think pike are a good game fish. But I did. I was fishing for trout, caught a few trout. This was the second week of December, just before was actually some ice on the water already up there. Um, so I'm fishing with a woolly bugger and I'm catching some trout, and I caught like well three decent trout. My son caught like about four. Then all of a sudden we were just getting ready to go in, and I'm fishing, and I hit something. I thought I got stuck in the bottom, and I'm tugging on. All of a sudden it starts moving. And I ended up I had about a 3 foot pike on a
Nice.
four weight four, 4 weight leader, a rod, and a 4X leader,
Wow.
and it was
Brought it in.
got it all the way to the boat, and my son tried to net it, but he's not familiar with netting pike, so he tried to side net it, and it was bigger. Our boat net's 21 inches
Mm.
across. It was about 34 to 36 inches in length. So it just flipped itself out of the net, and then went and back at me and pulled my arm back this way and snapped off. But I had it right to the boat. I got to see it anyway. But I was, if I could have, yeah, I told my son, I said, it's just like that movie, the Avengers Endgame, where they said, go for the head, you know, you got to get a pike by the head, get
Hmm.
him in there, because otherwise they have so much body strength, he just flipped himself right out of the net.
Well, I think we could count that as a catch by you. We'll just blame it on the netting.
Right. Sad part was I would have let him go anyway,
Yeah.
because I'm on the rebel side of Arizona Game and Fish hates pike. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous. But there's only a few lakes that they exist in here, and then some on the White Mountain Apaches reservation who don't hate the pike as much. Um, but I would have liked to got a picture of him because he was the biggest pike I ever hooked on a fly rod. I've caught little ones, up to about 18 inches on a fly rod before, but never anything that massive. And I couldn't believe he didn't snap off before he did. I might have brought him around a second time if he hadn't gone on back and me pulling my arm backwards. So, but
Yeah.
that was my best catching story of 2022.
Awesome. Yeah. I've never caught a pike. So myself. And so I mean it's a not a pike, not a muskie, none of that. I do know though that their teeth are so sharp. That's amazing that you even brought the thing in, especially 4X leader.
Yeah, I mean we've gone fishing for. There's one lake that they don't molest them. They don't try to get rid of them on them called Lake Mary, up pretty near that other lake. But are you still there?
I am, yeah. It seems
Okay.
like Brian's trying to jump in here,
Oh,
but I think he's not. His video isn't on.
okay. So yeah, um, when we go fishing for pike, usually have bite wire on the end of it. I'd never hooked one with a 4X leader before,
Yeah,
but it must have been between his teeth. He didn't
yeah.
break up.
Maybe just the hook was sticking out. He was just biting on the hook. Who knows?
Yeah.
That's amazing, though.
But yeah, good old woolly buggers. I've caught just about everything on a woolly bugger. It seems like. Well, I mean, except for fish I haven't caught. I haven't never caught a redfish. I envy you that.
And you probably could catch them on a woolly bugger. That's the thing with woolly buggers; they catch everything. They're just
I caught. It was in 21. I caught a 5 pound channel cat on a woolly bugger.
amazing. So I'm gonna see here. I muted you, Brian, because it was loud. But I'm gonna unmute you. See if we are you. Hold on. Okay, I'm clicking S to unmute. Hold on, let me make sure. Uh, there we go. Can you hear me, Brian?
Oh yeah. Oh
There we
yeah.
go.
Loud and clear.
Awesome. I wasn't sure.
I'm just sitting here eating lunch with one of the kids.
Oh, sweet. He so Brian's at work. He's you teach, right?
No, I'm a state bureaucrat.
Oh, I thought you used to work for the college.
I did. I quit. That was
Oh,
like about 6 months ago.
oh, sorry, man. I
That's all
can't keep
right.
track of my own things, let alone. Sorry.
No, I mean I still occasionally teach at a community college, but that's just in the fall. It's not like a full-time gig.
Well, that's
But
cool.
the my state job is so. And interestingly, like for about 2 or 3 days, I think it was last week, um, it was I was waiting on things, so it was kind of slow. So I might have broken my vice out in the office when nobody was looking.
Hey, nothing wrong
and
with
tied,
that.
no, and
That's
tied
a
up a few
brave
patterns.
man.
So it beats, sitting there surfing the internet, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. Well, as long as you can get away with it and your boss don't care, then go for it. There's nothing.
Yeah,
It's sure better than I guess more productive than surfing the internet for sure. So
yeah. And I mean, I don't know. I felt like it was a better just use of my work time too.
for sure.
rather than just kind of like sitting around staring and like waiting for these emails to correct a few things. Yeah. So and I think I forget what I tied actually. Um I think it might have, well, I'm not sure. But I know I definitely tied a streamer. I know that much. I just don't know if they were the like those modern what do you call them? The circus peanut variations that Andreas Anderson ties. I
Yeah.
think I might have tied those, or it might have just been one of those the Loftus deceivers.
Okay.
Yeah, or it could have been some smaller saltwater pattern. I don't remember, you
No
know.
worries. Well, I mean,
So
all of those are good options though. But yeah,
yeah.
that's awesome, man. So we were talking about pike, and he caught a pike on a what 3 foot? You said.
Was on a four weight with a 4X leader with a woolly bugger, just a medium sized woolly bugger on it.
Yeah,
Wow. I'm surprised you didn't snap your tippet somehow.
that's what I was saying.
No, he did after my son missed netting him. I got him right to the boat, floated up. My son tried to take him. He was longer than the net was wide, so he
Oh
flipped himself
wow.
out of it, and then he went and dragged and went around my back. So he was bending my rod and my arm backwards, and then he snapped off. But I got a real close look at him.
I call that a catch. What do you think, Brian?
Yeah. Yeah, if you touch the leader, that's all you have to do.
Yeah. I mean,
Just
these
tap the
guys
leader.
that you've heard of these guys that go marlin fishing with like 2 pound test, and they basically they just that it's counted as like a catch. What they do is they hook it, and and then drive the boat towards it and reel until they can just touch the leader, and boom, they're done, and they call that a catch.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
all right. Well, that's good. I wish I got a picture of him. Like I said, I would have released him anyway, but I would have let him go and told him go eat some more rainbow trout.
Was it a pike or a pickerel?
No, it was a northern pike.
Oh
There's only
wow,
a
okay.
few places. There's only a few places in Arizona that have northern pike. This
Yeah.
is one of them. And actually, I was telling Sean, our game and fish is sort of anti-pike,
Yeah.
invasive species. Um, so they're always trying to gill net them out of there and set during the spawning season, but they've never been able
Okay.
to get rid of them. But they say, oh, they're eat our trout, and that's like, you know, I don't know. Quite honest, I sort of get sick of catching stocked sterile
Yeah,
rainbow
I
trout.
bet. I
You know,
bet. I mean, I guess they're doing that because they think that like the rainbow trout are not game fish, but they are kind of like draws. for getting people to come and fish. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
no,
The
you're right.
attractions.
I've
But
said that, I've said they're not really game and fish, they're really crowd control.
yeah,
So they want to give people something to do.
yep,
And
yep.
they don't really cater to fly fishermen, even though our fly fishing associations in the state are the ones that help them volunteer and help them, with habitat and everything else. And yet they always seem to cater to people who want to float that those plastic baits, or well, not even plastic, the gummy baits that
Mhm.
they sell on the bottom of a lake or a stream and try to catch trout.
You mean
That's
like the power egg or whatever they are by
Yeah,
Berkeley,
power
that
egg
stuff?
and power bait.
Okay.
And yeah, they always, are. I can tell by their monthly report that, well, you can use power bait. I'm going, I don't do that.
Yeah.
I let kids do that. You
yeah.
know,
I'm not opposed to doing it if I'm sitting drinking a beer and got a line out and I'm just sitting on a lawn chair and being bored, then fine, but most of my fishing I like to actually be active. But that
well, and the
that
thing
reminds
is, I certainly don't mind, the people doing it so much when they don't leave a big mess.
Mhm.
But I really don't like the government agency in charge of game and fish catering to those people. I don't think it's fair, personally.
Yeah. No, I feel you. That kind of reminds me a lot of people like for carp, for instance. Everyone's anti-carp. It's like I
Mhm.
remember I went to a lake once and I caught a big carp and the guy, I threw it back. And the guy was like, "Why'd you throw it back? You got to kill it." And I'm like, "I'm just what? I don't want to eat it. I'm not going to eat a carp." And he's like, "Yeah, but it's bad for the environment." I'm like, "Those are fun to catch, man. I mean, if I could catch any fish in fresh water, I think I would be going after carp. I mean, they're fun. They pull. No, you're not going to eat them, but they're good game fish. I mean, people have this like negative thing about them, but they're fun. I'd rather catch one of those than 20 stalker trout, like you say. It's just
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I caught a 9 pound one at the state park near here. That was in 21 too. The same year I caught the channel cat. And I think I might have caught that in a woolly bugfish. But I posted a picture of it on the local Arizona um, Fish Arizona, which is run by the
Mhm.
Game and Fish. And sure enough, I got a couple of trolling. You should have killed that and got rid of that trash fish and stuff. Few other people posted in defense of that, but it's just, I don't know. I don't. They don't hurt the environment. I don't know where people get
Not really. Some people say that they eat the eggs of like bass and trout, but I mean, maybe to a degree, they might, but I don't really think that there's a whole lot of population drop when there's carp in the water. I mean, you still have tons of fish. I mean, there's Medina Lake or Medina River that I fish. I mean, there's carp up and down there. I can't seem to catch them. They're super smart there. They don't want anything I can offer them. I haven't figured them out, but they don't eat all there's tons of fish in there. There's tons of other, tons of eggs all over that. Obviously they're not eating them all. And there's probably, I don't know. I mean, as many carp there as there are bass, but but they're still bass. So
that. You know what? Trout and bass eat other fish eggs too, regardless
exactly.
of what you say. So
Yep.
I don't think they're any more of a, and the thing is, where most of these fish are in their natural environment, I grew up in Michigan. Pike were in lakes that had trout in them and stuff, and they always seem to all survive.
Yeah.
You know, but out here, there's a couple of states. There's actually Arizona, Arizona, Nevada, and California seem to have a negative thing about pike. And yet, like that reservoir, Lake Pleasant, I went down to and fished last weekend. I was hoping maybe the crappie were running. That used to be a champion crappie lake until they got stripers in there. And they aren't negative about the stripers. They're not even a freshwater fish, technically.
Yeah.
I mean, I enjoy catching them too, but nobody complains about talk about an invasive species. They're not,
Hmm.
a saltwater fish that come down through the canals, and yeah, they hybridize with white bass, and they get big and they're fun to catch, but they're very voracious and eat other fish. They ruined the trophy uh, crappie status of Lake Pleasant. So, hard to say how some of these people make their management decisions.
Yeah, I feel yeah. So this is everywhere though. It's not just in fish and game. I mean, for instance, I'm trying to buy a house here, so we're looking at purchasing it, and it's like this. We're finding this HOA that we're looking at. It's like all these rules that are set forth that are just the most stupid rules I've ever heard. Like you must do this, you must do this in this way, and it's like standing on your head and pat your belly while you're trying to while you're mowing your lawn, like whatever, and it's like, man, I'm out in the middle of nowhere. It's like where we're looking at buying, it's an acre, and it's like there's nothing around. Every house in there is a mobile home, like the one I'm looking at. It's a modular house, and it's like I feel like I'm in like a gated community, like the way that but you never know. And so just like you say with the fishing game, it's everywhere, it's everything. You got people that think that they're in charge of something, and then they want to own everyone,
Yeah, the 21st century is sort of the over management century.
Mhm.
So,
I feel you.
nothing can be left alone, and everybody's supposed to go gamble and pay $6,000 to watch the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't watch it. I like baseball, so I did watch the World Series. And I'm sure anyone watching this that likes baseball probably hates me for rooting for the Astros, because everyone seems to hate the Astros because of a couple years ago with them cheating. But they're a better team now, and I don't think they're doing it now. But someone could argue that, I'm sure. But I mean, I enjoyed that, but and I'm not against people watching any sports, but yeah, some people get so obsessed with it. It's just, you know,
Right.
it's I enjoy watching. It's like my son likes baseball. We watched together. Like, we enjoyed it, but it was more of bonding with my son rather than really caring what happened. If they lost, they lost. It's no big deal. It's I'm not getting paid for it, so
That's right. Yeah, I got a son-in-law that gets overly involved in watching professional sports and
yeah,
freaks out about it.
for sure.
I try to tell him, calm down.
So have you caught any fish, Brian, lately?
Not really. I mean, let's see. Besides the wealthy man's trout pond, no.
Okay.
I think I'm trying to remember. I've been out twice, and I've had motor issues with the boat, so I didn't really fish that hard.
Yeah.
So one time, I had to cut it short, and the other time I was just getting it out to run it. And it's a part in the river where there's some typically mangrove snapper.
Mhm.
Um, and that's kind of like the day that I that I lost a few flies. And then the next day I went out just to try and run it again. And I fished a creek, and there was one spot where there was a few fish, but they moved on pretty quickly, I think. And then like a good part of that creek was completely devoid of life.
Mm.
So so yeah, but again, I wasn't seriously fishing very hard. Both times I fished maybe an hour,
Mm.
and these weren't like um what I would call high opportunity spots either.
For sure. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
well, it's
so
winter. So I mean, if you're like you said, you caught some in the stocked trout pond, right? So I mean, that makes sense. It's winter, trout like the winter. But yeah, if you're ocean, saltwater fishing out in Florida or even bass fishing, I mean, good luck. It's too cold, right? So
yeah, and these aren't your like little store-bought trout that you usually catch in like tailwaters. They're like 12 inches. These are like 16 inches and above. Um,
Mhm.
So I mean,
it's
they're kind of fun to catch, but it's I just do it just to get out. Like, and when I only have like a few hours, it's kind of better to do that than sit there and drag your fly really slowly on the bottom for like
yeah.
crappie or bass off a few of the docks. So,
Do you got to pay to go there or
oh yeah, it's a pay to play for sure.
okay?
Yeah. And I mean, I've taken like one of my friends that's trying to get into fly fishing out there um recently. So I've fished it less this year than I normally do.
Mhm.
Um Normally go about like 5 times, and I keep forgetting to bring or to get like a smaller rod and throw the Griffiths gnats that you tied me
Yeah.
up, and Because they'll sip off the top. I don't know exactly what they're going after. I can't really. I'm not good with my insects, but it's something. I think it's more of like what do you call them? Emergers, like when they're right beneath the surface.
Sure.
Mhm.
Well, if you can't see the what they're sipping on, most likely it's a midge or maybe a
Yeah.
BWO or something. Because if you're not seeing it, you can see most mayflies. You can
Oh
see
yeah.
they're big enough where you can see what they're
Mhm.
eating, unless they're really far out. But if you're just seeing them sip, but there's nothing there, you're not seeing what they're eating, then it's most likely a midge. Those are usually the smaller ones. I mean, midges can be down to like a size 32 hook or even smaller. Real tiny stuff. So I mean, almost
Oh
like
yeah.
mosquitoes.
Hmm.
Smaller even.
Yeah. Because I was going to use a dry dropper rig or whatever you call it, where you got the dry fly and then a little midge, but I don't know. There's no real current there, so it's not super appealing to me. But there's guys out there that go out there that do it and they do really well. I mean, they'll catch like 20 something trout, if not more, doing that. But
Well, them
I
darn
just,
midge experts are good at that.
what's
If you
that?
know how to fish, there's a lot of midge fishermen that fish a lot of midge flies, particularly in the wintertime, that do
Oh yeah.
really well. I honestly am, because I'm old now, my eyesight really struggles trying to put on a 22 to 32 hook for,
Yeah.
for tiny midges. They sip off the surface.
Well,
It's
it was like that
almost,
in Colorado and the San Juan River. I mean, everyone fishes a size 30 or 32. I mean, 26 is about the
See.
biggest that you're gonna fish. Yeah, it's tough.
yeah, I have to bring a microscope with me so I can tie them on my leader. That's what happens when
I
you hit 70.
Yeah. I just try and go for like if I go trout fishing nowadays, I usually only want to go like when it's kind of more of streamer season
Mm-hmm.
than throwing the midges around and little stuff like that, like nymphs. I like fishing the White River with hoppers. That's cool. But
Well, hoppers are cool.
yeah, but
That's a, that's
I'm not
a,
a great trout fisherman. I don't really get those good drag free drifts or anything like that. But I'd rather, I don't know. I
well,
just
if you
rather
want
do
to
other types of fishing.
if you want to do a hopper dropper rig, I think that's one of the best things to fish with. And during the summer months when hoppers start appearing, I think it's one of the funnest ways to fish for trout too, because I don't know, Sean, you probably know better than I, but I would say that 4 out of 5 times they're hitting the dropper, but that's really cool when they hit that hopper on top.
Yeah,
So
for sure. So I do a lot of that. I used to do a lot of that. Now I'm in Texas. I don't as much, but yeah. A lot of times you'll see these guys, they'll fish like with the indicator on top, and then a lot of times the fish will come up and hit the indicator, you don't have a hook on it. And that happens a lot. At least in the San Juan River, where I would fish a lot, that would happen. But yeah, if you fish like a hopper or, some people would fish like just make it a indicator. So they put just a tough yarn on a hook or whatever. So in case they came and hit it. But yeah, a lot of times they're hitting what's dropped beneath. So they'll see. I did that a lot even with nymphs. You put on something a little more flashy to get them to come up and look at it. At least
Mhm.
you're pulling them off the bottom. They're looking at it. They're saying, "What is that?" A lot of times they go, "Oh," they get closer. Like, not for me. I don't want that. That's too flashy or whatever. But it brings them up, and then right behind it is trailing something a little more natural, like a midge or whatever. And a lot of times they'll hit that. So yeah,
Yeah, I
same thing
think
with
that's
the
an
hopper
effective way to fish for trout.
for sure. Because the
And
hopper will
one of
bring
the,
them up. Yeah,
and the most fun too. I guess my point being
for
that
sure.
I'd rather do that than, like I say, midge fishing for me at this point when I have to have Coke bottle glasses on to be able to even think about tying on a 26 foot. I
Yeah.
mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's nothing better than dry fly fishing. It's such a blast. If you're going to trout fish, if you can dry fly fish and see them hitting the fly, I mean, it's something a little more rewarding about that for sure than, oh, my indicator went down. It's time to set the hook. But it's still, both are fun. I enjoy it all. I mean, there's some that I like more, but It's not always that opportunity to be able to do that. So, depends on what the fish are doing. But so we've got 3 minutes and 49 seconds left, it says.
Well, I've talked too much. I want to hear from Brian.
Okay.
What do
Figure
you
I'd let you guys do it.
Okay, what do you want to hear about?
Well, I'm not
Um,
even sure exactly where you're located in the country. So,
Okay. So I live in Tallahassee, that's in the Panhandle.
oh yeah,
Yeah, I'm actually pretty close to some pretty solid fishing. Um it's in the summer months. There's a lot of people come here for tarpon because of the bigger tarpon migrate here in the summer, and we're talking 100-pounders plus, you
right.
know. So people fish here a lot. I'm like 2 hours, a little over 2 hours from Destin, a little under 2 hours from Panama City Beach and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But I used to do a lot of kayak fly fishing, and then now I have a skiff, and finding out in some ways it's actually harder to fly fish from my skiff than it is a kayak by myself. But
Mhm.
I'm getting better at it. But yeah, I just generally I fly fish 99% of the time. Um, Even when I think about bringing like my one kind of like inshore conventional rod I have left, I just leave it behind. It
Yeah.
brings no. The only time I feel like I actually like conventional fishing is if I were going to target sheephead with like crab or something like that, or
Hmm.
throwing top water. But like throwing a spoon or like paddle tail baits, anything like that, doesn't bring me any joy. But I'm mostly fishing for reds and trout. Um, but I do black drum like in a few months, when because they're the only ones that really tail. I very rarely see any redfish tailing in this area. But the black drum are pretty big and they tail, but they can also be pretty discerning and not bite whatever you're throwing in front of them. Either
Well,
maybe they
I'm
just don't
jealous.
see it or don't care.
I'd like to do a lot more saltwater fishing. I've never had. I mean, I have significantly, but but I've been fly fishing for 58 years. But I never have fished enough saltwater. A lot of freshwater fishing. There's hardly any freshwater fish I haven't caught. But I've never caught
Mhm.
a redfish. I've never caught a tarpon. Boy, I'd like to do that on my bucket list.
They're well,
redfish are fun.
I can tell you this: if you want to just catch a redfish, go to Louisiana. They don't care. They're big, they're aggressive, they're not finicky, and they're not leader shy.
Yeah, I've seen some of that. A couple of people I've watched on even on YouTube that
Yep.
like to show themselves fishing, go to Louisiana to catch redfish.
Yeah, if you just want to catch a redfish, like your first redfish, it's hard to beat going to Louisiana and catching like a monster, I don't know, 45 inch or plus, you know?
Yeah, and I'm not even that interested in size compared to just catching. I've I've always liked the all species fly fishing type thing to catch as many different species as possible. I keep a
Sure.
track of all the ones I do. So yeah, I'd sure like to make that, but I envy you for that. Do you ever catch any calico bass and such down there?
That
No,
that's
you mean peacocks?
Or
that's
peacocks?
Pacific. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.